All right, we're live. Thanks for joining us, everybody. This is going to be a little recap of the weekend from Jiu-Jitsu. We had Fight to Win. 131 went down, and I'm Brandon Mccaghren, Matt Skaff, a couple of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu black belts, and we just want to cover with you guys kind of the events of the weekend. So the big news over the weekend, there weren't a lot of huge shows going on, but we did have Fight to Win 131. Couple of three, particularly three really big matchups, two giant matchups. The first one we'll start with was the Edwin Najmi versus Jaime Canuto fight. Go ahead, Scaff.
So Najmi's he's been having a tough time of it lately. A couple years ago, I think Najmi was one of the rising stars of the sport. I remember when he won a stacked Burkett bracket. He went out to Russia, knocked off a couple of dudes, but he got beat pretty handedly by Jaime Canuto.
Well, he came out, so Najmi threw that flying triangle right off the bat, like from another zip code, dude. That was like a gi only kind of flying triangle. He had like fully extended arms and threw it up there. But then after, and had it for a long time. But then after that, like you said, man, it seemed like Canuto was just all over it.
All over him, and won pretty handedly. Fight to Win, as we talked about, if you guys watch Friday's preview, Fight to Win rewards submission attempts. And so flying triangles, great way to start off a match, especially the way Edwin Najmi threw it, gets you a big, I don't know if they count it just like as a tick mark or if they just go, you have one submission attempt, but it's a great way to
so
start off.
the fight to win format is it's judged based on submission attempts, which is always like a strange, like, so coming up doing Nagas, they would reward you points for submission attempts.
Yes.
Like you'd get 2 for a solid like submission attempt and 1 for a kind of I don't know about that one kind of submission attempt. And then if it was just terrible, they'd be like, no, that doesn't count. So yeah, I would like to hear more about the actual criteria for what counts as a submission attempt at Fight to Win. Like obviously the flying triangle that Najmi threw was a real submission attempt. That was the kind of thing they're looking for. Ultra aggressive, straight out the gate, looking for blood. And then after that though, it was, he really got out grappled. He got mounted, passed multiple times, arm lock attempt at the end by Canuto.
Yeah, and I'm not sure again what the criteria is for what is a legit submission attempt, and we'll talk about that obviously in the next couple of matches. But in this one, there were a couple of at least identifiable that was a legit submission attempt, and
from each guy.
Yes, and when Najmi played his guard, Canuto's passing looked great, and he just went right through him. Honestly, ended up mounting him, and it didn't look like Najmi was getting out. And then he finished up in a deep arm lock, had a really deep bite on the arm, and time expired, and Canuto got the unanimous victory.
Yeah, rightfully so too. That match played out, I think, a little differently than I thought it was going to. I totally expected Najmi to win it, but like you said, man, he's been on a tough streak ever since that Burkett.
It's been a tough year for him. He's lost quite a few matches this year, and against world-class
great
opposition,
dudes,
obviously.
But man, a tough run at ADCC.
Yeah,
not even a run at ADCC really, just a tough day.
Yeah, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where Najmi goes from here, because again, I think his past couple of performances, gi and no gi, have not been up to his usual standards. So.
Yeah, it's definitely not performances that he's happy with himself either, So I'd like to see him get back on track. He's been one of my favorite guys to watch over the last couple of years. So exciting, man. That nasty Estimo lock.
Yeah, Darce chokes.
Yeah.
He's very aggressive, flying triangles. His submission game's on point. He's very exciting to watch. But again, I would like to see him maybe come back out, get that confidence back up. Do a tournament again, maybe even a lesser-known tournament, and go out there, get a couple of victories under his belt, and then work his way back up to being the guy that's the main event of super fights and all that stuff. I
Yeah.
think sometimes that's really important for these guys.
Not for just for those guys, for anybody really.
Mhm.
Even if you're like, oh, I'm a black belt and I've done pretty well, uh, and you start having, just a regular regional black belt, just a regular dude.
Mhm.
I've done pretty well, and then you start, not doing as well. Your confidence gets shaken. I think it's great to run back into a tournament that you know for sure you could win and you're going to outclass everybody, just to, get your confidence back up and stuff. So yeah, I think that's strong. Maybe Najmi could really use something like that right now because he's obviously got the skill set. He's just a little something missing in his confidence maybe right now.
Yeah. And again, one of his last losses, we have Gary Tonin. He lost to Gary Tonin in the absolute by that flying scissor. So there's nothing wrong with who he's losing to. It's
sure.
just more getting that confidence back and getting back on track.
Okay, so the next big matchup at Fight to Win was Murilo Santana versus Josh Hinger. So go ahead, Skaff, break it down for us.
To me, this was the most. I actually really enjoyed this.
We're
match.
looking at all these on the screen, by the way. That's why I keep staring at the screen.
I'll tell you what surprised me the most in this match was just how fluid and just beautiful. I thought Murilo's guard looked beautiful. It looked impassable.
And confident, too.
Yes, he just, for a guy his size and how deep his voice is.
Dude, is he the scariest sounding person
He
in jiu-jitsu?
definitely is, man. Definitely is. But just the way he was able to invert and I was really interested. It looked like he was kind of going for a few leg locks. I was wondering, with Eddie Cummings up there, he was trying to get on some single leg X's, and I was really wanting to see him get in on a leg just to see what Eddie Cummings' influence up there's been, because all those guys have been doing a lot more leg locks, and that's what I was really wanting to see. But Josh Hinger ended up on top a couple of times during the match. Towards the end of the match, Murilo Santana, they were on their feet. Murilo Santana just
sat down
he was like,
and
come
pulled
on.
guard.
He was like, let's do this again, And it looked like a match that could have gone on for a very long time, very evenly matched. Nobody was close to a submission. And
Or a pass.
Or
a
anything.
takedown.
I don't know how they gave Josh Hinger the victory in this one.
Well, see, and this is my issue with these. This is and I thought with you, I thought that was a really nice match, and both guys did well. Even though this one wasn't, there wasn't a lot of submission action, I didn't find it a boring match.
Yes.
They were both working the entire time, even when they were wrestling. They were playing on the feet. They were doing the jiu-jitsu version of wrestling right here, which, look, it's better than my wrestling. It's all hush, but it's they were working the entire time. Josh kept working for that 2-on-1, that kind of we call it a Zangief grip, where you roll through, but or Russian, whatever. And when Santana did pull guard, he didn't seem like he had, like you said, any danger of being passed, and Hinger didn't seem like he had any danger of being swept.
Mm-hmm.
So Santana kept playing with that outside De La Hiva hook, which you would expect being the training partner up there with those guys with Meows. Played a good inside De La Hiva hook, reverse De La Hiva hook, but yeah, really just nothing going for either guy.
Yeah, and I thought, but based on the criteria, I'm guessing then they awarded Josh just for being top position was maybe the next, because again, I thought both guys looked like a draw to me. Like if there ever was a draw, it was like, okay, this is a draw. See, Murilo, we had the footage on in the background. Murilo just pulled guard right there, and it wasn't like Josh got these like 2 or 3 like amazing takedowns and then was, close to passing. I don't know.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good close match. Hinger's just world class, man. I really like watching him grapple. I wanted to see him flip over and go after that front headlock just one time,
honestly, that's what I was expecting. I was expecting Hinger to make a couple of diving attempts on submissions. And I think as the top guy, I feel like you're almost expected to make a couple of diving attempts on submissions, to just give up position and go for it.
Well, I just don't know that you could ever in an intelligent way, give up position against Murilo Santana.
And Hinger said that before the match. He said,
He's
I am
talking about
not,
the greatest guard passer of all time, maybe.
Yeah, he said, I am not going to choose bottom. So he said, if I get on Tyson, I'm going to fight for top, and when I get on top, I'm not going to the bottom.
Yeah,
so,
I like it, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I think that's the competition strategy, no matter the rule set. If you can be on top, man, the other guys, generally speaking, he's going to be the one doing the heavy lifting during the match. It's not always true, and with a guy who's got such a relaxed guard. You know, Santana never looked any worse for the wear. Like, we're watching it now. Very chill, great frames, keeping the grips together with that. Look at that outside De La Riva hook.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And it looks like he was really trying to get that single leg X position with that De La Riva, get that tilt, and he was trying to weave in, but Josh just kept putting that weight there, so he couldn't weave it back inside.
Boy, that was probably as close as it got right there. Josh thought about trying an arm triangle for a second, but he never cleared the guard at all.
Yeah,
So
but
I thought it was a great match. I actually really liked that one. Again, though, I'm not clear on how you determine a winner in this rule set. Like, it's just so arbitrary. And there's a lot of complaints about the EBI overtime rule sets, but when we get into this next match, we're really going to have to talk about how do we determine winners.
Yeah.
So let's move on and start talking about Vagner versus Tye Ruotolo now. Vagner Rocha, Tye Ruotolo. Go ahead.
Not much to say, honestly. Match started, and for about 8 minutes, we really just saw a lot of pushing and palming and almost eye gouging. You know, just, I don't know the quite term to use, but
Silliness.
yes, there wasn't
It
a
looked
lot
like
of
silliness.
grappling. It wasn't wrestling. It wasn't anything. You know, Tye kind of came out there and, you know, with his long arms, he really just kept Vagner at bay just by pushing him. And a lot of, I mean, I don't think Tye really attempted to
He didn't
take
attempt
down,
one takedown.
and he just
He
kinda
got
backed up
taken
and
down.
pushed. Mm-hmm.
Like, Vagner took him down very clearly. Tye poked and scratched, cut of something. Vagner's eye, and he was bleeding pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. It
He
looked
did it
nasty.
during the stand-up, just poking at him the whole time. And Vagner didn't say nothing about it. He's like, hey, that's good. But Vagner gets the takedown at the end. First of all, they didn't even engage one another. Like, Vagner tried to grab up like a snatch single a couple of times, and he'd get the leg for a split second, it'd be over. But Tye literally kept him at arm's length for 8.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then at there was 96 seconds left in the match. Vagner got the takedown. As he completes the takedown, he passes off to side control. Tye recovers real quick, throws in a triangle omoplata attempt that Vagner ultra easily just kind of shakes out of. And then he tries to pass the guard for the last 90 seconds.
It wasn't even 90. It might have been like, seemed like it was about 50 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, there was not much groundwork. I read one of the judges from Fight to Win. He said that they are told that submission is king. Tye's triangle attempt was the closest thing to a submission, and
wasn't-
that's why Tye won.
It
But
wasn't even remotely a submission.
It was not. It was a little slick. Like, he threw it up. It was slick.
No, it was
but
great, but
It wasn't close.
that's as much as of a submission. I mean, that's not a submission attempt. I guess it's an attempt, but he never got his triangle locked together. His ankles were crossed. Vagner postured immediately, shook his head right out of it, pulled his arm out of the omoplata. Like, there was no threat level whatsoever. It was the same as being in the closed guard because the posture was so high from Vagner when it started.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm hating on Tye. I'm always impressed by him. I love the way he passes the guard. So I'm not hating on Tye. It's just this type of grappling, the direction that this type of grappling turns the sport just frustrates me, man, to be
Mhm.
honest with you.
It becomes unwatchable. And we have a comment. Redno says, he says that's called hand fighting. But that's
No,
not
no,
hand
that's not
fighting.
what was.
Yeah,
you
that's
didn't
not
watch
what was
the
going
match.
on. Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, hand fighting and, you know, obviously wrestling, there's an attempt to get a takedown and to advance your position and to get in on shots and stuff. But that's not what was going on. And again, for 6 or 7 minutes, there was really, again, no grappling. It was just kind of like a little slap fest almost, like a little standing CJJ almost, but without, since you can't slap.
At one point, there was like a 60 to 90-second exchange, and I'm not exaggerating, where they just pushed each other on the shoulder, and Vogner was laughing.
Yeah.
Like, he would push Tye in the shoulder, and Tye would push him in the shoulder. And he would push Tye, and Vogner started laughing, like, what are we doing? He started saying something. He's like, are you going to grapple with me or not? That's what it looked like, at least. So, yeah, just no... I didn't see anything that would have awarded either guy a win other than the takedown in any rule set. So it's just frustrating to watch people like get pumped, like fired up, like yes, that was dominant like use a match like this as evidence of dominance or of some team being great or whatever. So I don't know, man. I hope that I would like to see the fight to win release like a tighter criteria for people to understand, or I don't know, don't settle them that way. Let's find a different way.
Yeah, and 10 minutes I think is a really long time to have a match go on where there's really not much anything going on. I think there needs to be some type of, just for the viewers, where they put you in a position of action. You know, whether it's closed guard or, I mean, I like a lot of what Quintet does. I think Quintet...
I think that's the best rule set out there right now, by far.
There needs to be stalling penalties.
100%.
Stalling penalties have to be in every major professional grappling tournament. There needs to be aggressive stalling penalties. I think EBI could step up their stalling.
Technically it has stalling penalties, but they're not really utilized. I agree. There should be some sort of like punishment. I know there's no points, so how do you punish the guy? And you don't want to instantly DQ a guy for stalling necessarily. Mm-hmm. So in an EBI rule set, I think you got to take away, like you got to add time to their ride or something like that.
Yeah, and I just think disqualifying, and I don't want to say banning guys, because obviously neither of these guys, but I think especially when you've established over 3 or 4 invites that you're a guy that is just boring.
Yeah. I'm actually not saying that about either of these two guys.
No.
I'm just saying that this is match between tend to be two pretty exciting guys. Vagner to me is very exciting. Tye is exciting. He's definitely exciting, especially after his ADCC.
Man, yes.
You know, so I'm not really critical of those guys, but I think this match itself is an example of like we need some. I don't know. We need a mindset shift in the sport a little bit. I think from the people who are at the top.
Well, when you're not guaranteed a salary, and I think that's a big issue with what happens when you think about winning and losing, is LeBron James can go out last night, and if he misses 23 shots, he's still getting paid, and he knows that, well, he's going to try again tomorrow. Where a lot of grappling, you're just getting paid for wins. Mm-hmm. And again, there's not like you don't have that safety net of, okay, if I have a bad performance, no big deal. I've signed a 3-year, $500,000 deal with Flow Grappling to be in all their events, right? Because then you're not as worried about having, again, that bad performance or going out there and getting beat, because you realize it's part of the sport. Every professional team gets beat. But in this, it's like, man, the more you win, that really reflects how you get paid. And if you take a couple of losses in a row, like a guy like maybe Edwin Najmi we talked about, maybe he's suffering. Instead of getting paid $5,000 to appear, maybe now he's going to start looking at getting that $2,000, $1,500, or maybe he's not getting invited to an 8-man card where there's a potential $100,000 on the line. And so I think that's a big problem of why we see such reserve fighting, is just there's nothing guaranteed. And so if you lose, you're taking a major hit in a lot of ways. Just with money-wise, on your,
so
whether it's DVD sales or whatever it is.
So CJJ/EBI, they pay show money now. That's not just Like you only get the big money for winning, but everybody that shows up gets their expenses and some show money. So that's nice to see. I think Fight to Win does show money too, don't they?
So they do money
Yeah.
based on their like selling tickets. So you have to
Okay,
sell
so it's
tickets.
like the amateur
Yes.
MMA model. Okay, that's fine. I can get behind that.
Somebody says the audio is a bit low.
Not anymore, baby. I just jacked it way up. Thanks. Good call.
So yeah, definitely some issues with every rule set, and obviously the sport's nowhere near a contract type situation where
I don't know,
you're
man. I don't
invest-
know if that's true. I think it is. I think it's. I think we just need the right rule set. I mean, we've got a couple of rule sets that throw thousands and thousands of dollars at people, and that are on the UFC. Like I think Quintet is a. We could have contract I think people will watch Quintet. People we know will watch the EBI format.
Yes.
People, at least on some level, are watching the Fight to Win format. I do think that there's room. I think Meta Morris tried to do the contract thing. You know, the sport wasn't ready for it then.
Burkett tried the contract thing. I remember a couple
Yeah,
of
that's
guys
true.
had, and
Because
that's why
Gordon
they
couldn't sign with somebody.
Yes, and so I guess there has been contracts, and I remember again there's been controversy of, well, I'm signed with, because I remember Burkett was trying to sign all the major guys, and they were giving them lucrative deals from what they were saying.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's why a lot of guys at the time, especially when EBI was really coming up, those middle EBIs like 9, 10, 11, where you started to see Yuri Samoas come in, and Gordon, Gary, they started becoming stars. Well, Burkett then bought, it was like, they were like, okay, we don't want EBI to get any bigger, so we're just going to buy a lot of these big name
And
guys.
did they just go away? Like,
No, they still have shows, but who knows, man?
that's a great example of why you can't act like that in a small sport. Like, if you're a promoter or a teacher or whatever, a guy who teaches seminars, and you're out there trying to hoard it all for yourself, the sport is too small for that, dude. Like, this is the kind of thing where we got to all grow together. So this is a great question actually in the chat. This is Chevy Thriller 334. You're talking contracts, but wouldn't that be conflicting with other organizations?
Yes, and exactly, because if you're contracted to EBI, well, if you go get hurt doing Polaris, then EBI's screwed. You know, you're screwing over EBI. And again, that's where guys were having issues with Burkett. But then Burkett, I don't know if they just fell apart or no idea what the situation is there. I just remember, again, a lot of guys were super hyped because they were like, we finally have people offering us contracts to go do fights and tournaments. And
It all fell apart.
it all fell apart. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
It's because it's too good to be true. So I don't know if contracts are necessarily the right way, but I think it's something that's like maybe that could help. Yeah, maybe that could help. But what I really think is that the fans of grappling have got to step their game up, because we don't want to pay. It's all about stealing people's streams. And like, dude, if you want the sport to grow, you have to support the sport with your money. Like, you have to. Like, I don't like paying $30 a month for Flow Grappling, but I'm paying $30 a month for Flow Grappling. I don't like paying an extra $5 a month for ESPN Plus, but I'm doing it. I don't like paying $10 for Fight Pass, but I do it because I'm invested in this sport and I want to see these guys paid and growing. I want the sport to grow.
Man, that is a beautiful sentiment, and I think that's something we've all been guilty of in the past, at least
100.
most of us. And I, a couple months ago, got Flow Grappling, and it was one of the best purchases I've ever made. I mean, for that year, I get it. A lot of people right before ADCC were really complaining they switched it to a year. It ends up being $12 something a month, and it pays for itself in a month, easily.
Check this out. This is actually a great idea. This might be the best solution I've ever heard. This is Jiu-Jitsu Bud 10P. It's one of our dogs right here that ride. He always rides in the chat. He said, what about contracts just for the title holders? Not keeping them from other organizations, but holding them to defending the title when the time comes.
And that's one of the big issues.
Or maybe like if you were the title holder, you can't compete in another organization. You got to stay here and defend your title until it's no longer.
I'm going to be honest, one of the big issues with EBI has been the title holder doesn't compete again for like a year and a half, 2 years in some instances. And that makes you forget about the narrative. Like Gio hasn't competed in EBI so long, it's like you've completely forgot about his title win against Eddie Cummings.
That was EBI 10.
Where he retained the 135 belt. And I want to see active champions, right? That's what we all want to see in the sport is active champions. And it seems like most of these organizations, they're so like, all right, we're only going to do 4 shows a year, maybe. That's what it seems like a lot of them do, 4 to 6 shows a year.
Yeah, it's about all you can do, man. I mean, if you're doing 4 shows a year, that means you're doing one every 3 months. There's so much work that goes into a show. And for just a regular dude, like just a guy who's into it, to try to put together 4 shows a year, that's insane.
Yeah, and I get it. These shows are not making millions of dollars.
Or thousands.
Yeah, or even thousands. I mean, they're doing it for the love. And I think we've never been in a better place for professional jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think in 5 years, a lot of this, especially 10 years, a lot of this stuff will be kind of smoothed out. But right now, it seems to be one of the big issues, I think, as a fan. A lot of these shows are maybe a little too long.
But but the shows have got to do them that way in order to make it viable to put on a great show like this. So like Fight to Win has to be 6 hours long because it has to be full of blue belts.
Yes.
Because who else is going to buy the tickets? The blue belts' mama and friends are going to buy the tickets and show up, and that's what pays the big boys at the top to show up and win. So I don't got no problem with the long shows. In fact, I dig that. It's, man, this is actually a great comment here. Faux Sublime says contracts could work if they do a 2, 3, 4, 5 fight contracts and variable for different competitions in a year. So here's what that makes me think of. What if ZJJ, EBI, Fight to Win, and Polaris had a contract together? Hey, you're going to fight for our 4 organizations.
Yeah, anything that's on Fight Pass.
Yeah, you got a Fight Pass grappling contract.
That's a really good idea.
We fixed it. Hey, we fixed it. High five. All right, y'all spread the word. Fight Pass grappling contracts. We just got to get Fight Pass on board. Chevy Thriller says it would be dope if Bellator or UFC creates an umbrella for BJJ so the competitors can get. That's exactly what we were just talking about. Get contracts, endorsements. James Cole says, "What's up, Jiu-Jitsu Bud 10P?" That's why I say still allow other comps, but when your weight class is set to go, the champ returns to defend, or have the champ do single matches during the weight class events, the other weight classes. Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, we need an organization to step up and produce 8 shows a year where a champion's coming back multiple times. Because again, I forget the narrative. I forget who the Polaris 170-pound champ is, and a lot of times, I mean, it would be even better to just have maybe like a rotating, but I would rather just see it constantly be, well, this guy doesn't want to defend it until we find somebody that's like, no. I don't care about any other organization. I'm Polaris' 170-pound champ. This is what I care about defending. I'm going to defend it 4 times a year. That's something that I would really interest me, and I think it would be awesome.
It's the same thing as the UFC and Pride, though, when they're exclusive like that. Like Crow Cop and Fedor and Wanderlei spent their best years not being able to fight in the UFC.
But that's part of the fun of the sport, though.
Kinda, but the NFL doesn't have that.
Because think about like Ben
NBA
Askren.
doesn't have that.
It was way more exciting and way cooler when we didn't know how Ben Askren would do in the UFC in a lot of ways.
See, I think it's sad and disappointing that we only got to see him at the end of his career in the UFC. Like I wanted to see Crow Cop at peak Crow Cop throw down with Randy Couture. I wanted to see that, or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? But I think that I don't know. I just don't want to see the same situation that happened with UFC and Pride.
Well, a lot of what makes sports fun to talk about are those unknowns, are those arguments of who's better, Michael Jordan or Wilt Chamberlain. We'll never know. But that's why you can argue it.
Yeah, but those guys,
we can't
it's not
argue
the same
Ben
argument.
Askren anymore.
It's not the same argument because Jordan and Chamberlain they would have never played against each other. Ben Askren and Jorge Masvidal could have fought years ago in the UFC. That could have happened for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Ben could have been fighting GSP years ago. Fedor could have fought Randy Couture 100 different times. They almost had that matchup come. And then I think about the NBA or the NFL. In America, we're not interested in those because the attention is split. There's nobody. Maybe every now and then there's a guy from Europe. Maybe every now and then there's a Yao Ming where we go, oh, imagine if he made it to the NBA. Oh, okay. We'll pay him to come over here because this is where the best play. But we just don't have that right now of this is where the best play. That's a real promotion. We have the IBJJF and ADCC. Okay, this is where the best play once every 2 years. And this is where the best who can afford it and can come to America play. That's the IBJJF model.
Well, that's right now, it's the arms race, is who can become the first organization that can just exclusively pay and start buying athletes so they can't compete on other shows. And that's what the NBA is. It's the best the best basketball business in the entire world.
Yeah.
And that's why they have the best basketball. You were watching the other night. You're like, oh, this Luka Doncic.
Oh my God, dude, he's amazing.
I mean, he's a foreign guy. He comes from overseas, and he's one of the best players in the NBA right now. But he's not going to go play in his home
country. He's not going to the European leagues, dude.
No, he's trying to get paid.
Yes.
And he is getting paid.
And challenge himself against the best.
Yes.
But we just don't have a place where the competitors will agree, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. Because there's so many different rule sets that Murilo Santana's best in this rule set, but he can't seem to win a match in this rule set. Or maybe not Murilo Santana's not the right example, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
But let's take Yuri Samoas, though, for example. Yuri Samoas, IBJJF champion,
Mm-hmm.
ADCC champion. But you put him in EBI, he can't win EBI. You put him in CJJ, he can't win CJJ. How can that be? Like, how can both of those things be true? You know what I mean? Is that my phone or your phone going crazy? Keelan trying to call in. He's ruining everything. Y'all message Keelan telling he's the worst.
I think and I hate to say this, but it's just true. Gordon Ryan's going to kind of he's the one leading jiu-jitsu into the future
because he rules
business-wise.
every rule set.
Yeah, just because he's the guy winning the most right now, and he's the most marketable. Him, Marigelli, and McGee, Felipe Pena. There's a few guys right now that are very highly marketable that people want to watch. And I think kind of seeing where those guys, I think we really are starting to see a shift in gi and no gi. And
dramatic now.
Dramatic. I mean, dramatic. There's quite a few guys that only do gi now that are, I mean, Marigelli would murder Gordon Ryan in the gi.
In a gi in a certain rule set.
Yes, a murder. I mean, he would tap him. I'm positive of that. But Marigelli's not trying to do ADCC.
Yeah, flip that over and put Marigelli in to an ADCC or an EBI format.
Oh, yes.
Gordon would eat him alive.
I mean, Gordon is king of EBI. Like, EBI rules, sure. Gordon has 100%. He submitted everyone he's ever gone against, whether it was in regulation or overtime. BJJ Fanatics is coming up, and it's EBI rules. There's just nobody that can beat Gordon right there.
Dude, listen, I'm kind of pumped to see what BJJ Fanatics can do, honestly. Because here's why. They have that submission-only mindset, and they got pockets. Now, they're not millionaire. Well, I don't know. They might be millionaires. But they're not like, you know, UFC deep pockets. They're not Fight Pass deep pockets. But they may have the interest in actually pulling this off if they can get a little momentum going. So this will be their second one that they've done. The first one was really good, man. The first, the brown belt, not Kumite, what did they call it? Just tournament?
I think they just call it tournament, invitational.
Man, I'm excited to see what this next one looks like, honestly. And then King of the Mat's coming in with 10,000 nowadays. What's Grapple Fest out in England? What do they pay off?
Man, I have no idea.
They're more like a one-off Polaris style.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And people, in my opinion, I prefer to watch tournaments. That's just super fights. A lot of times guys get in their own heads. They don't have those warm-up matches, and it's just not as exciting. I think a lot of times what you see in
Agreed.
super fights is, again, guys that they're not quite warmed up. They're just trying to get into the flow of the tournament. You see the best grappling happen in tournaments.
And tournaments are more fun because we get mismatches and we get to see the best guys dunk on people. Like,
Yeah.
I don't always want to see a super fight because it turns into Vogner versus Tye Ruotolo.
Yes.
Oh, great. Dude, I want to see Vogner dunk on somebody. I want to see Rotolo dunk on somebody.
Yeah.
At least in the first round, bro. Give me something that I can watch and aspire towards and be excited about and make a highlight reel with. If we don't start doing that, then it doesn't matter what rule set we pick up. None of it's going to make any sense.
Yeah, and so I think the 16-man, the 32-man, the 8-man brackets, that's where we're going to see the best. But it seems like super fights are what most of these organizations are trying to
Well,
do.
I think that's what most of the competitors want to do.
Well, it's a lot easier to get that guaranteed money because a lot of times in these tournament formats, you're betting on yourself.
Yeah, but listen, man. The fans want to see a tournament.
Yes.
The
definitely.
fans don't want to see the super. Not don't want to see, but there's less interest in the super fights precisely for the thing that you're talking about.
Generally, guys get, whenever you think about a legendary performance, I've never thought of a super fight when I think of those run, because I always think of a run, whether it was Cron Gracie submitting everybody during his
Bro, the
ADCC
NCAA
run.
tournament, the playoffs. The
Yes.
playoffs matter. You
Yes.
gotta have playoffs or a tournament. That's the same thing. It's gotta be.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right,
when you see
let's hit
those
these
3 or
comments
4
right here.
subs, like, yeah, I definitely think so.
Red Nose says, who's gonna be the first UFC of grappling? Who's it gonna be? We don't know yet, man.
There's a lot of people doing amazing things, though. So,
Yeah,
a lot of people.
that's a good
A lot
point.
of different organizations doing absolutely amazing things.
And working to get better too.
Mhm.
So, we're painting with a sort of a negative brush there, but I don't mean to paint it negative. I think the jiu-jitsu community is in a better place than it's ever been.
Definitely.
However, I am not content to sit here and leave it where it's at. Like, I think that we got the best sport in the world, and I want to see everybody start to embrace that and recognize it. I want to see our athletes and our coaches and our teams get paid and get what they deserve. Let's go to M Mold in the chat. He says, wait till BJJ gets Olympic nod and then splits the community heavily along Olympic and non-Olympic rules. I think that's certainly a possibility.
Man, I already think we have that. I can't be more split. I mean, I don't see how the community can be any more split than it already is between gi and no gi and points and submissions. I don't think it getting the Olympic nod will really do anything. I mean, I think the sport right now is in a divide, and we're seeing people just go, no, I'm over here. No, I'm over here.
Chevy Thriller 334. I think it'd be cool to force both gi and no gi in competition. For instance, an EBI, that would be 6 hours plus for sure. Or would that be too much? Too much.
As the viewer, what I find is that I really like 2 hours. 3 hours gets a little too long. A lot of times in EBI, by the time it's the semifinals and finals, I'm wore out. I'm kind of done with it. I want to see it just get over. I really love all the first rounds of EBI. Second round, I'm still enjoying it. By the semifinals,
You're starting to get a little taxed.
I'm like, yeah, okay. So to me, 2 hours is perfect. 6 hours, unwatchable.
Unwatchable, but I don't know. I say
Unless
that.
it's
I
ADCC.
sat down for ADCC and I watched for 2 straight days, dude.
ADCC is the once every 2 years. I mean, but if
Yeah.
you're doing that every month, I'm not down for that.
Faux Sublime. So what about having a bell ding during the match? You got 30-second window to sub the guy, and then you get another 500 or something if you land it. So it's like a money strap. I don't know. Hey, you're the guy to try it out. All right. I think that's it. I think I got to get ready for my class. So thanks for watching, guys. No, we didn't have a giant crowd, but we're going to keep doing these, and we'll just see how it comes together. Make sure you share these. Whenever we're live, we want to make sure we get those shares from you. That helps us tremendously. Make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel, all that. At Matt Skaff on Instagram. Tell them about the podcast.
Yeah, so Grappling Discourse, it's my new podcast. I've got almost 20 episodes already. A lot of just me giving my jiu-jitsu training philosophies, mindset philosophies, but I'm also putting up these chats as well. So if you missed it or you want to watch this upcoming weekend, we have finishers 185. So
Oh,
we'll
that's
talk
gonna be
about,
good, man. Maybe we could could stream that one, like, and just watch it, depending on
Yeah.
when the time is. We got Mindset Mike coming in this weekend, so
Mhm.
if the times don't conflict, we should definitely.
Yeah,
do
I'm
that.
not sure when it is, but again, finishers, one of my favorite tournaments. It's a stacked 185-pound division. Can't wait to talk about it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.